Gentleman yields. Now recognize the subcommittee's ranking member, Ms. Torres, for 5 minutes.
Colonel Matthews,
Yes,
I spent more than 17 years as 911 dispatcher. I worked through some very difficult times in the city of LA, Rodney King riots, the verdicts. On 9/11, I was tasked with putting together mobile field force units to dispatch to critical locations to ensure that those would not be attacked. So I know what an EOC is supposed to look like. I know what orders to follow during certain types of emergency. I was prepared with a manual that was provided to me, things that we have practiced time and time and time again. During an emergency, you agree that it is vital that we have a quick response and a unified coordination that has clear communications, correct?
no question.
I was struck by your written testimony when you said the DC National Guard was delayed because Millie McCarthy and McConville believed that the President of the United States might deploy the National Guard improperly on that day and had taken measures to prevent this. This must have been incredibly frustrating for you and for your colleagues in the Guard. Why do you think senior military leaders believe the President of the United States might employ the National Guard improperly on January 6th? Was it based on their words, actions, or both?
I think that I think that belief was irrational because I don't believe the president ever gave any of them an unlawful order.
Okay,
He gave none of them an unlawful order.
Secretary
He
Secretary
appointed all
of
of
the
them to high
Army,
office.
Ryan
Appointed them all to
McCarthy
high office, and they-
testified that on January 6th Select Committee, that at one point he was walking down the Pentagon hallways, and one of the most seasoned reporters asked him whether the Army was planning to seize ballot boxes. Do you know if ideas like the president seizing ballot boxes was something Secretary McCarthy was considering when making decisions about deploying the Guard on January 6th?
I think it was, but I think it was not a rational belief. I think,
Okay.
so Secretary McCarthy says.
Was there widespread fear within the Department of Defense about the president using the military or other levers of the state to impact the election around the time of the 2020 election?
No, so it was not a widespread fear. It was a fear among a clique of officers led by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff who talked about a so-called Reichstag moment.
Okay, well, let me tell you, the New York Times reported in January 2022 that President Trump actually directed his attorney, Rudy Giuliani, to ask the Department of Homeland Security to see if it could legally take control of voting machines in key swing states. I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to enter this New York Times article entitled "Trump Had Role in Weighing Proposals to Seize Voting Machines" into the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Command Sergeant Major Brooks, you served in the Army and Army National Guard for 29 years. You spent the months after January 6th right here on this Capitol Hill protecting the citadel of democracy. I understand that for the entire time that you were deployed, you slept in your office, with the exception of maybe 1 week over the course of months. You clearly are a patriot who loves our country. How did you feel watching the Capitol get overrun, knowing that you were almost walking distance away but not permitted to come assist law enforcement in defending it?
It was very disheartening to see. I believe it was something that, I think any of us who serve in the military was something that we didn't think we would see in our lifetime. It was very frustrating to know that we had the capability and the personnel and unable to respond.
Thank you.
It's hard to describe.
Brigadier General Aaron Dean, what is the basis and rationale on which the Department of Defense and DC National Guard rely in determining the equipment, tactics, techniques, and procedures that the Guard could use to respond to escalations in the protests on January 6th? Was this atypical?
I don't think it wasn't atypical.
We were just months, we, right now, are just months away from the 2024 election, and the man who incited the 2020 insurrection is on the ballot again. What corrective actions has the National Guard Bureau of Department of Defense taken to ensure the National Guard can plan, coordinate, and execute command and control in response to threats in the national capital region?
I can only really talk about the District of Columbia National Guard and its preparation, especially around January 6th. We match capability with request. So if there's a request, we match the capability that we have, and we had riot control capability on that day to provide services for the Capitol.
So you would say that over the last 4 years, the smoke has been cleared and everyone is clear on how to respond, and politics will not take priority over necessity?
I can say that the District of Columbia National Guard is always ready to respond.
Thank you, sir.
And was ready even before that date.
Thank you, and I yield back.